Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Be More Connected Summit. And today, our guest is the wonderful Jeroen De Witt. Thank you so much for being here, Jeroen.
Thank you for having me, Elise.
Yes, and Jeroen is a past life regressionist, and today I'm so excited to be diving into his work and the tools that he shares with his community. And so, Jeroen, I'd love to start by hearing about your journey of healing and what's gotten you to where you are today.
It's quite a long journey. It started back in the 90s, well, a little bit earlier even, but I'll try to keep it short. I as a kid, kind of always looked for the unseen. I kind of had this knowing that there was more going on to our existence than just the physical reality that we found ourselves in. I didn't find any proof of that until I picked up a book when I was 8 years old by the Monroe Institute about out-of-body experiences. My mom was a librarian at the time, and she had brought this book home. I read it, and it was about people leaving their bodies and traveling into astral realms and into different dimensions, and I just knew this to be true. Then pretty much nothing of the sort happened until I was in my 20s. Yes, I was in my 20s, and I had my spiritual awakening. Spiritual awakening to me is a pretty word for a pretty nightmarish experience where I myself, but I think people in general, are stripped of the places where they have invested their worthiness in, or their sense of self, or their security. And for me, it was all an internal process. I did a landmark forum, and just all of my sense of who I was and what I held to be true sort of was kicked from underneath me. And I had to learn to build myself back up again. I mean, it was very scary in the beginning because I didn't know what was going on. I visited a Vedic astrologer much later in life, and he described it, which sounded very accurate, that at that moment my circuitry came online, that I had been checked out up until that time because of the density of life on the planet, and that my purpose here is to help elevate, as you, the person that are watching, and all your other light worker or fantastic friends that you have. I think we're all here volunteers to help uplift the frequency of consciousness on the planet. And for me, it was that at that moment, my circuitry came online, and I had to learn to become more embodied. At that moment, I was not in my body at all, or had been in my body. And so looking back at it, layer by layer, I was able to love myself back into my authenticity. In the beginning, I had no idea that this is what I was doing. I was just trying to get away from the pain. It was just so painful and horrible that I just sought out healers and different healing methods to heal myself. And in the doing of this, I just gravitated towards it because I thought this energy, holistic, spiritual healing processes that I accessed for myself and that I ended up helping other people with, it was so beautiful because everybody had their own very personalized experience, including myself. And noticing the empowerment and the healing and the well-being that I experienced for myself, I wanted to help others do the same thing. So that was my start of it. So I accessed different healing methods. I studied meditation and different healing, energy healing methods. And then in 2006, I picked up a book by Dolores Cannon called Custodians. And, at the time I stopped being an avid reader, but that book I just devoured from cover to cover. It was all about people having experiences being abducted by aliens. And I just, again, knew that, the universe is teeming with life, not just on the planet, but on all different dimensions and frequencies, and that we're not alone. And I just wanted to find out about this lady, Dolores Cannon, and Googled her and found out she was teaching her course doing past life regression in the Netherlands 3 months ahead from the time that I was in. So I took a course, and I have been merely past life regressioning ever since. So this has been, 13, 14 years. And my own journey hasn't stopped. So I've learned a lot doing this work. And right now I see myself as a person on the planet to turn people onto their life purpose, to help activate that through doing the work that I do. So past life regression, but also energy healing and teaching about consciousness, meditation. That's the cliff notes of the whole journey. Yeah.
Yes, and thank you so much for sharing that journey. And I'd love to hear, in your own words, a little bit more about the quantum healing hypnosis technique, and how that factors into your work.
Sure. So it is a form of hypnosis that accesses a person's higher self. We call it the subconscious mind. So we act as a facilitator to create a connection. People bring in a list of questions to their session regarding their life. It might be about life purpose or physical issues or relationships or money, all the stuff that we deal with being in a human body on the planet. Through this whole process, people connect to the higher self, and then they get answers and healing to whatever issues are going on. That's the short of it. Yeah.
Yes. And I love in your intro how you were speaking about being able to connect with people on a level to also not just impact themselves, but raise the frequency of the entire planet. And I think that we are living through a very interesting transformational time on the planet right now. And I was wondering if you could kind of share your own take and your own perspective on how this kind of healing work is having an impact on the world right now.
Right. I mean, I've been thinking about it. It's now March 23rd or?
Yep.
Yeah, so like in California, we're like 3 days into our quarantine. I'm still, I mean, it's not officially quarantine, it's like stay at home, but I'm abiding,
right.
So of course I get to think about it, and going through all of the feelings. I mean, I know that we live in a benevolent universe, and through my clients' higher selves, I've been informed that we are going through a spiritual awakening on the planet right now, and that there is upheavals to be expected to clear out all the negativity that's been part of our consciousness for so long. And that there's different ways that this is going to be brought up into the mass consciousness. Of course, there's lots of fear and disease and people having difficult experiences, but from a meta perspective, as a thing as an event that's happening with the planet, I think it's going to take us hopefully to a place of being able to turn inward and to let go of being so productive all the time, or to be so externally focused, and to connect with ourselves and to connect with nature and to connect with each other. I don't know for you, but even in those few days, I've been like, my sense of my connection to other people has changed. Like, I feel more even more caring or concerned, or like it's shifted my focus from like, oh my God, what's the next thing on my calendar we're gonna have to do, work, to now like, how is everybody doing? I want to feel connected to people. I want to be in nature. I want to yeah, those are the things that I feel like I want to do. Does that make sense? So I don't have, that's the clearest I can get about it. And the few sessions that I was able to do before we were told that we needed to stay home, this is what the higher self of the person confirmed, that we have been abusing our own bodies and Mother Nature, and that now is the time to pause and to move through this and come out feeling more connected. Yeah.
I think that totally makes sense. And it is so interesting how on the micro level, we are experiencing this in so many different ways, because we are all so completely unique and individual, and this is impacting us based on where we sit in our own experience. But then, as you were saying, being able to think about it more on the meta level and how this is impacting us as a global family, and then even more broadly, if we think in terms of the universe and cosmically, energetically, what's happening right now and what this means for all of us. And I'd love to kind of just touch in around how this may be impacting your work and your leadership, this time of pivoting and transformation. If this is bringing up any shift and change for you and what that looks like.
Do you mean like in the way that I conduct my work, or how I look at it, or all of it?
Yeah, could be all of it. How you're working with clients individually, or even more broadly, how you're thinking about your work and your role.
What I've noticed so far, when going through a lot of feelings, but sort of the more lighter moments of it, also seeing around, getting lots of emails from other, yoga people or healers or different centers that help people elevate their experience. That a lot of people, including myself, I'm noticing that there's lots of a sort of a heart-based offering happening, that people want to help, they want to be there for each other. And I think that is really beautiful. And I think this is exactly where we're going to go. Like, in a way, it's kind of a blessing. If you don't have to worry about finances right now, you can take a break for a moment. To be in a space where you feel what your innate desire is and what you want to do, and to come from a place of being able to share of yourself instead of to work to pay bills, or that's kind of it's freeing, and it kind of focuses, I think, myself and these other people that are willing to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I've been thinking about. In terms of the practical issues, like, I'm moving more of my work online, of course. But in terms of content of it, nothing much changes, because it's pretty solid the way it's been. I love helping people to ignite their own authenticity. That's really what I feel I'm here for.
Yes. And I loved how you were sharing about there being this kind of overwhelming sense of people wanting to connect more and operate more from a heart-centered space. And I'm wondering if you have any stories or any examples for how that's shown up for you in terms of how you're staying connected and staying hopeful during this time.
My contribution to this conversation, in that sense, is might be different, because I do see a lot of people that jump into action and start doing and putting out emails and offering services. For me, I move differently, and I'm here to be a voice, maybe for people that move in similar ways that I do. I'm a feeler, so I move through life feeling things. This is how my circuitry works. I'm an emotional feeling person. So part of why I'm on the planet is to help clear the emotional vibrations on the planet. So I'm going through a lot of feelings. I do feel the fear, the worry, the anxiety. I feel disoriented in my spatial experience. This is what I'm going through right now. And yeah, it doesn't give me much space yet to create and to do and to be externally active and to put out new programs and stuff. So because this is how I do things, and I know there's other people that do things similarly. So I just want to say that it's not wrong if you experience this, if you do feel fearful, if you're worried, or if you have anxiety. If you don't have to shame yourself for not pushing out new programs right away. This is quite a fundamental shift that we're going through, and the people that are here that are feelers and that help sort of emotionally Febreze our human consciousness on the planet, we do things differently. For me, I know that I first go through this whole, like, I dunk into the emotional space of it and feel it out. And at one point, there will be something that makes me go external. But right now, it's all of inertia and gestation.
Yes.
And that's where my leadership is at this moment.
Yeah. Yes. And thank you for naming that also, that everyone is experiencing this in a different way, and no way is right or wrong. That
Exactly.
It's important for us to all own and honor our own experience in this moment and give ourselves space to feel those emotions and to allow that to be okay. Not having a shame-free experience about what that looks like for each of us is so important, and just makes this experience more tolerable. That we're not adding on. There's already so much that's happening externally. We don't need to add our own internal pressures to that process.
Exactly. If I may add something to this.
Yes, please.
And I think that's what, for me, that's the essence of this whole process and of life in general, to love ourselves. You know, we're not on a planet or in a system that is affirming in that sense. You know, we've been part of very non-life affirming ways of thinking on the planet, and they're insidious, and you haven't been taught or supported or nurtured knowing that you are good enough as you are. It becomes very easy to take those external messages or standards or norms as your source of being worthy or good enough, you know, and it's this empowering bind that we find ourselves in. If, like for the United States, you know, in the United States, it seems like normal or the standard or the preferred way of being is if you are white and straight and male and masculine and Christian and maybe Republican right now, you know. There's nothing wrong with any of it, but is it affirming to all of us as a nation, you know, when we're also women and people of color and, you know, non-conforming and different religions and different expressions, to have there be just one standard or norm for all of us. You know, and that's the sort of the largest umbrella of it. But I think, you know, me going through my own personal journey of moving into my own authenticity, I found layers upon layers upon layers upon layers of internalized microaggression, micro-cruelty, micro-brutality that has been so commonplace and normal on this planet. And as I learned to embrace my own authenticity and love myself, to be compassionate towards myself, I realized that the compassion extended to, you know, everything around me. I became more in relationship with my natural environment, with other people, and knowing that I am God in the body, I know that everything else is God in the body, and I do not want to see it harmed, you know, in any way. And I want to celebrate all the differences and the different expressions that are on the planet, rather than to, you know, to curtail it or to stop it from expressing. Yeah, because I think we're all here to express God, source, creator, in our own unique ways. And so to make any of that wrong is not doing us any justice, you know, because that's what I think the predicament that we're in right now is, all of us feeding into that limited way of thinking about life that we're supposed to be and do and fit into standards and norms that are not life affirming. And this whole process of loving yourself, all parts of yourself, including what we just spoke about, that going through this process, feeling the feelings is also okay. To take your own experience as your point of reference about your worthiness, including your physical appearance, whoever you are, whatever you look like, whatever you express like, all of it. You know, nothing about us is a mistake. We're all perfect expressions of source. We're all the point the universe is trying to make. And that's the journey I'm on. You know, I'm not sitting here like I've embraced my totality, because there's still, you know, layers upon layers that are being transformed. But having gone a measure of it, I'm able to sort of see it in other people and to bring awareness to, you know, the unawareness or unconsciousness about having internalized self-limiting beliefs, thoughts. Yeah.
Yes. And wow, you said so much there that really, really resonated. And I love that point that you made about nothing about us being a mistake. And I think that there is so much work that we still have to do, or that we get to do as individuals and as a collective, in terms of pulling back and peeling away those layers of, as you were saying, the insidious non-life affirming qualities that are so present. And I'd love if you could speak to some practices or some tools that you recommend around how to work through some of those aspects of internalized cruelty and internalized microaggressions.
Right. From me, what I know, the only thing that I know to be true for myself, I can't say that I know the truth of everything, but for me, the easiest way into building relationship with yourself, is to figure out what makes you feel joyful. You know, joy is a fun, easy emotion to get into. So, and when I say, you know, joy, I don't mean the joys that we might have experienced as we worked out really hard in the gym and we now have the Instagram approved, you know, hot body, or we buy the clothes or get the car, whatever it is, and the joy that we experience then as a result of thinking that we now are deserving of external validation. But the joys I'm talking about are the joys for fuck's sake, just meaning the joys that just are, the joys that we had as kids when we would scream out loud, or, you know, run through the forest, or dance, or, you know, race down a steep hill with the wind blowing in your face, or screaming really hard, you know, just all of our sensory input, just, this is just it. You don't need to explain it or defend it, it just is. So, and then, you know, knowing that certain things make you feel joyful is not enough. You're going to have to take action. That's the language of experience on the planet, taking action on it. So if you figure out that you love, like for me, I love going into the mountains. Like Los Angeles, part of why I love it so much is that there's gorgeous nature everywhere. So whenever I'm not with my clients or I'm hanging out with my husband, I head for the hills. I'm in the mountains. I'm in nature because, I don't know, it feels like my heart can run free. It's void of any of the dense vibrations that are part of the city, and just nature just is. I feel I can connect with, yeah, with the mother and with myself. So to follow your joy and to create space for it, you know, even if you have a busy schedule, you have kids, you have a job, all that stuff, see what you can do, you know, make it easy for yourself. It doesn't mean that you have to be enjoy 24/7, you know, just start, if you can do 5 minutes on a Monday, just do that for yourself, you know, build that in and keep your commitment. So you want to keep your goals close to you. Instead of doing a 10 feet toss, you do a 3 feet toss. So if you cannot manage like 10 minutes meditation every day, then do it maybe Friday evening, you know, after you get home from work, in your car, maybe for 10 minutes. That's where you start. So you start to foster self-nurturing practices right where you're at. So it doesn't have to be a lot. So joy is easy. The more that you take yourself into joy, what you're doing is you're letting your heart know that you're listening and that you're taking care of it. You are creating external conditions that match what you like, instead of you shutting up your inner voice and trying to fit into external conditions that do not feel so good. So that's a very different direction. And the more that you do that, the more that other parts of you that you might have had to shut down, that you might have had to orphan off, part of your uniqueness, your authenticity, will not know that you're listening in instead of listening out for your joy. They might emerge and give you more specificity about what that joy might look like. You know, you might be finding out that you love monster truck driving, you know, and then you take yourself to a race, you know, it's not my thing, but I'm just coming up with something random. You take yourself to a race and then you meet other people that are into it. And some of these people might be like vegans and they tell you about like great recipes. And next time you go monster truck driving, you know, you're going to have a cookout with vegan recipes or whatever, you know, just making stuff up to show you, like, when you follow your joy, you might find out you open up your ears to listen on the inside instead of outside. And then more of your true identity has a chance to emerge. Yeah. So
powerful. And wow, I love what you said about joy for fuck's sake. That might have to become like a new mantra for me. I'm loving it. So awesome. And I also loved just how beautifully you spoke about just listening in to your heart and then allowing your heart to know that you're listening to it, that it's kind of this reciprocal process, and how that allows your life to expand more and more in the direction that leads you toward your highest self. And I think that's something that often inhibits us is fear, that process isn't accessible to us, that maybe it be the fear of expectations of others or cultural expectations, or potentially just doubt in ourselves that we're worthy of having a certain kind of experience. And so I'm wondering if you have any affirmation or wisdom to share for people who may be feeling that call from their heart, but not feeling empowered to listen to it.
Yeah, my experience is different for everybody. So, but what I would what I'd like to suggest is that to be willing to start listening inside and to be willing to trust your own feelings. And if you don't know how to do that, then get help with that. You know, the therapist, the coach, healing work, sound baths, Reiki, whatever it is that you can do, to open up that voice. Like for me, that didn't come natural to me. I have a long history of self-healing and self-help. I've been in therapy for 14 years of my life. Because of the distance I had to cross to learn what I needed to learn in order to be helping other people do the same thing. So I think the journey is different, but to be willing to accept that you hold your own answers, that to go on a journey where you can tip the scales from, you know, thinking that your point of reference about who you are or your worthiness is outside of yourself, it's the voices of the world, to where you start learning to trust yourself. This is not an overnight journey. You know, this is not a quick flip of the switch. This is a journey of relating to yourself. And so starting small is perfect to do that. And yeah, I mean, there's plenty of affirmations. Like, I believe more in the doing of it. Affirmations is fine if that works for you. It never really took off for me. I'm a doer in that sense. Like, I like to take myself into nature or to find self-nurturing places, to be in relationship with people. That's working for me. So that's what my suggestion would be.
Absolutely. And I do appreciate that reminder that this is going to look different for everyone. And there's no one size fits all in terms of figuring out what healing looks like for you. And
Right.
we do all have the opportunity to experiment and get curious and play with where we are needing to bridge that dissonance, as you said, and make those connections around what's resonating with us in our own healing and where we are right now.
Actually, I do have an affirmation. That is, I was trying to think of it. So, I mean, you can say like, I am the point the universe is trying to make. You know, I'm good as is. Nothing about me is a mistake. I'm here to express God as me. Yeah. That's what I can come up with on the spot. Yeah.
Yes. And thank you for that. I think that will really land and really resonate for people.
I hope so.
And yes. And I love to ask each of the guests, what does being more connected mean to you?
Being more connected means kind of what I explained. It means trusting yourself. Trusting yourself first over whatever you hear outside of yourself. So that means, for me, it means trusting my feelings, since I'm such a feeling type of person. So that's how it works for me. To be more connected, is to trusting myself. So that means to trust my feelings and to take action on my feelings, to make sure that I take myself into places that feel good instead of that feel rigid or tight or not good. So to be in relationships with people that, you know, that mirror back the feeling good that I feel in myself, or to go take myself into nature. Be more connected. So what I found is that the more I became connected to myself, the more that I love myself, the more that I was able to embrace the parts of myself that I had formerly judged as not good enough, the more that I became connected with nature, with my spiritual senses, and with other people.
Amazing. Yes. And are there any other messages that you would like to share with this audience before we begin to close?
I would, it goes back to the joy. I suggest going and experiment and to do this for yourself. In the beginning, it's tricky to know the rewards of just trying to experience joy, because it might seem futile or superfluous. But when you do this for a while and you learn to trust your own feelings, it is quite wonderful to find out that you can move about the world and in your life with more freedom, because as you learn to love yourself, you're dissolving inner judgments. And so the places where you might have felt small or kept yourself small prior now don't hold that sort of threat for you anymore. You know, I'm gender non-conforming. I never fit in the sort of binary of male and female, and judged myself for a long time and was uncomfortable in straight male spaces or in locker room situations at school. But when I stopped judging myself for having a different expression and embraced it, now I can go into these places and just have a great time being myself. I don't have to keep myself small anymore. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Oh,
So
makes so much sense. Yeah.
yeah. So follow joy.
Yes,
Well,
follow joy. I think that's a beautiful note to end on. And I'd love if you could also share how our audience can stay connected with you. Where can they find you?
Instagram would be the best. So that would be, my Instagram is my first name. It's Jeroen, Jeroen, and then my affirmation is love. So Jeroen is love. Instagram or my website is jeroenqhht.com.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for being a part of the summit and for sharing these powerful messages of self-love, collective empowerment, and embracing our joy.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much, Jeroen, and I
Thank you
hope
for having me.
everyone tunes in for our next set of interviews tomorrow. Have a great one. Bye.